Today, I'm going to show you how to turn Notion into the ultimate note-taking tool by building a complete notes dashboard from scratch. We're going to go from a totally blank page, and in a step-by-step build process, we are going to build a full dashboard with an inbox for quickly capturing notes on the go, a full tagging system for organizing your notes and easily finding them later, and a few other key features. This is also going to function as basically a full masterclass for learning Notion in 2023, and we're going to be going over some of Notion's new features and including them in this build. And if you happen to want a template, you want this entire note-taking system done for you, I've built that. It's called Ultimate Notes. It's also in the description below, so check that out. But if you want to build this yourself and you want to start mastering Notion, let's get this build process started. So here I am on a completely blank page in a Notion workspace. This is a free Notion plan. This does not require a paid Notion workspace. And I'm going to kick things off just by calling this Ultimate Notes. And then I want to make this page full width. So I'm going to come to this little 3-dot menu up in the corner here, and I'm going to set it to full width. And that is going to allow us to get this nice dual column layout here, which you can see in the template. So coming back here, the first thing we want to do is start building our actual layout. And then we're going to move into creating some databases that will actually hold our notes and our tags. So to start that process out, I'm going to type /2C, and that's going to get me 2 columns. And now you can see if I click here and I click here, I actually have 2 columns. So this is going to allow me to start building my dashboard layout. And I'm going to do that with some H1s or heading ones. So we're going to do /1 for heading 1 right there. And I'm going to call this section the inbox. So the inbox is going to be basically the place where notes are going to go by default. And then once we tag them, they are going to leave the inbox. So the inbox is always going to be kind of this area where we can dump stuff and then process it later. To the right of the inbox, I'm going to do another little heading 1 here. And I'm going to call this the favorites area. So this is going to be my place for tagging notes as favorites and quickly accessing notes that I'm using all the time. And then beneath inbox, I'm going to have my recents area, go over my reference guide to kind of show you what we're building here. We'll have a recents area, a tags area, and then we're going to create a nice full width note board. And that's going to give us a nice little board view of all of our different tags and the notes inside of them. And I want to show you a cool little trick here. So I could enter down from inbox and have my recents header there, but when I actually use this on mobile, I want to see my favorites right beneath my inbox instead of my recents. So a cool trick for doing that is entering down from inbox and then grabbing this little 6-dot icon and dragging it until you see a full width blue line here. So basically what I've just done is I've created a 2-column row, and now I'm going to create another 2-column row beneath it. And that way, when things stack up, it's going to go favorites under inbox, and then we'll have recents. So to make this a little bit more clear, I'm going to type -3 times, and now you can see I have a full width row right there. And then I can do /2C for 2 columns one more time, and that's going to get me my second row of 2 columns. So here I'm going to do /1 again. Let's do recents, and then over here we're going to do /1 and tags. And then one more time, I can enter down from recents. I can give myself a little horizontal rule or divider there, drag that until it becomes a full width blue line. And beneath that, I'm going to do one more /1 for heading 1 and call that note board. So now you can see we basically have the outline for our entire note-taking system here. And the next thing we need to do is actually get some database views here, which will show us our notes. So one thing we're going to do is use what's called a master database, which is going to hold all of our notes. And then we are going to create views of that one single database to show a filtered section of it that matches what we're trying to see here. So in this case, for this notes tab of the inbox, we're going to see just the notes that haven't been given a tag yet. Over here in favorites, we're going to show notes that have a favorite checkbox checked, etc. So to do that, we need to start by actually creating some databases. And because I want things to be nice and organized here, I'm going to create a page for those databases. So up here in Ultimate Notes, I'm going to enter down, and I'm just going to create a page by typing /page, and I'm going to call this databases. So here in databases, I'm going to give this an icon. And Notion has this nice little icons tab now. It's one of Notion's newer features, and it's this more unified looking set of icons, and you can actually change their color if you want to. So it's purple now, it's black now. I actually like blue, so I'm going to keep it on blue. And I think there is actually a databases icon. This is the one I like, stacked disks. So that's going to be my databases page. And then inside of this page, I'm going to create 2 different databases eventually. But for now, we're just going to start with one, and that's going to be a database called Notes. So I'm going to type /databases, and you will notice that we have 2 options here, one for inline, one for full page. I'll show you what happens with both of them by starting with inline. And you can see here, we basically have a database right on the page. And this is basically just a collection of pages. Every one of these rows here is indeed a Notion page, and the only difference from the page that I'm on right now or this page over here is that pages in a database have what are called properties. So if I open up this blank page, you can see this tags property is shown right here, and I can add other properties, which we're going to be doing throughout this video. So I'm going to call this database notes. And then I actually don't want this database to be on this page. I want it to be a page of its own. So cool trick here, if you click the little 6-dot icon on a database that is in line, there's a little turn to page icon here. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. And now I have a full page database, and that's where all of my notes are going to go across this entire note-taking system. So the next thing we want to do is start adding a few preliminary properties to this database that's going to make it actually function like a note-taking system instead of just a little table here with a single tags column. And I actually want to get rid of this tags column because it comes in by default, and I want to show you the process of making every single property that we are going to use. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this property and start creating some of my own. The first ones I want to create are a couple of different checkboxes, and the first one is going to be our favorites checkbox. So if I click that little plus button there and I type in checkbox, now I've added a checkbox property to this database, and I'm going to call it favorite. And basically, this is going to allow me to either check or uncheck the box on rows. And for rows that are checked, those are going to show up in our favorites section later, because we're going to create a filtered view of the database where only the ones that are checked are showing in that section. The next one we're going to create is yet another checkbox property. So we're going to Google for that again. I don't know why I say Google when it's just a search box in Notion. We're going to call this one archived. We're going to take a cue from my friend Tiago Forte's Building a Second Brain course, and specifically his PARA system, which stands for Projects, Areas, Resources, and Archives. You may have seen my Notion Second Brain video where we actually implemented that entire system. We're going to take the archive concept from that system for this note-taking system. So basically the idea here is whenever we check the archive box, that is going to send the note to an archive section, and it's going to make it leave every other section of our template. And the idea there is if we have something that's no longer relevant to our lives, we can check that box and we can send it to the archive, kind of banish it to that, that big stack over there that we just don't think about very often. But what it means is if we need it again, it's not actually deleted. So we can go find it later on. But in the meantime, it's totally out of our hair. So I've got that archive checkbox there. I'm basically done with my checkboxes for now. The next property I want to add is the created time property. So that is just a stock property that just shows the time at which a row was created. I'm going to X out of there, and then I'm going to add one more, and it's going to be the last edited time. And I'm going to shorten this to just edited time. It doesn't really matter. I just like keeping my property names a little bit shorter. So this is going to be one of the most useful properties in our database because it will allow us to sort by last edited time, which I find super duper useful. Another property that I want to add is a simple URL property. So I'm going to hit that plus button one more time, find the URL property, and I'm just going to keep that named URL. And this is basically just going to hold the URL of any pages that we clip from the web, because this note-taking system also doubles really well as a destination for web clips that you are pulling from the web. One last property that we're going to add here is a select property, and this is going to be a property we call type. And this is basically just going to give us the option to contextualize our notes. So I'm going to add a few preliminary types here. One's going to be called lecture. So if you're a student, you could tag your notes as lecture notes. We're going to call one book. Another one I'm going to call voice note. This would work really well for my AI voice transcription notes workflow that I made a whole video about fairly recently. And we could add a few more later, but I'm just going to start with these three. And that, I think, is good for our preliminary set of properties. So let's go ahead and go make our inbox. If we go back in the breadcrumbs up here, we can go to our Ultimate Notes page. And it just dawned on me that we don't have a cool little icon for Ultimate Notes. So let's go ahead and add that. I'm gonna go over to the icons area. And I like using these icons over emojis, which I used to use all the time, because these icons kind of give us the ability to make this really unified look for our templates. In fact, if I open up our sidebar with Command /, you can see I've already favorited this page. And as I open it up, you can see it just looks really nice to have this whole set of unified icons. And in fact, I already built this on stream last week. So we have the whole thing here, and this just looks really nice when it's using all the same color and these nice little flat icons. Okay, so the next thing we are gonna actually do is create those views of our notes database. And then we're gonna add what are called filters and sort criteria to basically see only the notes that make sense for each of these sections. So first and foremost, I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of these dividers. Note, when I get rid of these dividers, it isn't going to mess up that layout that that we built earlier, they were kind of just there as a visual aid. If I enter down from inbox, I'm still in a little column just beneath inbox, and it is a half page column. So what I want to add here is a list view and a little bit on databases here. If I type in database, you're going to see all of these. Basically, databases have 6 types of what are called layouts. We have table, we have view, gallery, list, calendar, and timeline. And basically, when I click any of these, instead of doing database full page or inline, it's going to give me the option of using an existing database as my source or creating a brand new database. So in this case, we want to use an existing database. It's going to be our notes database, and that creates what's called a linked view of our database. So kind of think of this as like a window into the database, but it's like maybe a dirty window, so we can only see certain things inside the house that has the window, if that works as any kind of metaphor there. And the smudges on the window are going to be the filters we add. To make that a little bit less confusing and more clear, I'm going to choose new empty view here. That's going to give me a list view. And basically right now, since we don't have any filters, this is identical to the source database we already made. So I'm going to hit done here. And the first thing I want to actually do is add some filters. So right here, we have this filter option, and I can click it, and then we can either create what are called simple filters. So if I clicked archived, it's just this very simple filter. Archive is unchecked or checked. But what I actually like to do is instead, I like to create advanced filters. Now, I might be a little bit old school because when Notion first came out, this type of filter, which is now called an advanced filter, was the only kind of filter that was available. But I just like building my filters in this little modal here. So that is what I'm going to teach in this video. So for an inbox view, we basically want our filters to create a rule set that says once we add a tag to our notes, it's going to get out of the inbox. And we also want to get a note out of the inbox and everywhere else if it's archived. So I can create my first filter by choosing archived is unchecked. So that basically means any page where the archive box is unchecked is going to show up here right now. Any page where that box is checked is going to not show up. But to add my tags rule, I actually need my tags database first because I need to create what's called a relation between a tags database and a notes database. So let's take a quick detour from building this filter and actually create that tags database by going back over to our databases page. So once again, I'm going to create a new database, and I promised I would show you both ways of creating database. So instead of inline here, I'm just going to go with full page. And this one I'm going to call tags. And wouldn't you know it, when we go to our little icon picker here, there is an icon literally called tag. So here we have another brand new database. Once again, I'm going to get rid of that default tags property, and we're going to add our own properties. So just like with our all notes database, I'm going to add a couple of checkbox properties, one for favorites and one for archived. And just like in all notes, we will be able to favorite our tags, and we will also be able to archive them and get them out of our hair and into our nice, safe little archive page that we're going to build later. The one other property that we're going to build right now in this tags database is a relation to the notes database. So I'll explain this as I go, but if you add a new property, you can choose relation, and then you can choose another database to link this database to. So in this case, I want to choose notes. And what this is going to do is it's basically going to create a property where I'm able to relate pages from my notes database to pages from my tags database. And if that doesn't make a whole lot of sense right now, it will later, but think about folders and files on your computer. Like say you have 5 clips of people riding unicycles downhill on your computer, and you have a folder called downhill unicycling. In the guts of your computer, there might be something more like a table with all of those files, but for those 5 files of downhill unicycling, there might be a property called folder, and for each of them, that folder property is going to have the downhill unicycling folder. So that way, when you go into the folder, the computer knows to show you only those 5 files. So hopefully that makes sense as a sort of like preliminary explanation. Let's actually build it, and later on, you're going to see exactly what I mean. So I'm going to add this relation, and I do want to show it on notes, and what that's going to do is actually add a property to my notes database, which I'm going to call tag. And adding that property kind of creates this two-way relation where the tags database has this notes relation, which points to my notes database, and then vice versa, my notes database has a tag relation property that points to this tags database. So once I add it, now I have that property right there. If I click out, I can click here and I can see those 3 pages from my notes database. And it might be a bit more clear if I actually go into the notes database and name those. So let's call this SAS apps I want to try. Let's call another one cool bugs. And let's call this one streaming setup. maybe I'm like documenting my streaming tech and all my cameras and mics and stuff like that. So if I go back to my tags database, you can now see that when I click here, I see all of these different pages and I could relate one of them to one of these tags. So here, maybe I call this one streaming. I'm gonna have a tag called streaming, kind of getting into that. And I would relate this streaming setup note to my streaming tag. Back on my notes database, you're now going to see that this streaming setup is related to that streaming tag. And the reason that this is useful, you're gonna see it way more in context later, but I'll go over to the Ultimate Notes template to show you, is we're actually gonna be able to go into our tag pages, and any note that is related to our tag is going to show up in this notes section. We could favorite it if we want it to show in the tag section, etc. So it's just like a more traditional note-taking system where you can go into a folder and you can see the notes that are within that folder. So going back to our actual build here, now that we have our tags database and our tags relation to notes, we can finish the filters for our inbox. If we go to the filter right here, open up our little modal here, we can add one more filter rule, and that filter rule is going to be where tag is empty. Again, an inbox is sort of like a holding place for things that we capture very quickly. And once we add a tag to a note, we want it to get out of the inbox. Now, there is one additional filter I want to add to this view, and that filter is going to be where the URL property is also empty. And the reason I want to have that filter here is the final version of this inbox we're going to build is going to have two tabs, one for notes, which you actually take yourself, and then one for web clips, which you kind of pull from the internet, things you want to read later, stuff that you're highlighting. And that's just going to make your inbox a bit more useful because now you kind of have these separated contexts. So let's actually go ahead and create those. And to do that, we need to finish building our notes view because we can actually save ourselves a lot of work by simply duplicating it and then changing it and making some tweaks. So we've got our filters done. I'm going to close that up. And to finish building this view, I want to actually click this and hide this database title just to make it look a little bit nicer. I want to add some sorting, and I'm going to sort by edited time. And I'm going to set edited time to descending. So the most recent note is going to be at the top. I just find that personally useful. Obviously, you can change the filters and sorts as you want. And then one other change I want to make here is I'm going to go to the little three-dot menu here to open the view options. I'm going to go to my properties, and I actually want to show that tag property. Now, this might not make sense because I just said we don't want any note with a tag to show up in the inbox, but the reason we want to have this tag property showing is by having it showing, we can click this little edit icon here, and then we get this little add tag. So any property that is set to show, if it's empty, it's still going to allow us to edit it when we click that edit button. And I could easily add this to, say, a bugs tag if I had one. Finally, I'm going to name this notes. And then if I right click it, I can actually duplicate it, and I'm going to call this tab web clips. And then the only change that we're really going to make to the web clips tab, other than maybe giving it a nice little icon like a globe, is to change the filter so that URL, instead of being empty, is not empty. So now anything that has a URL in that URL property, it's likely going to be a web clip. It's going to show up here in web clips instead of notes. Now, to take a quick little break here before we move on to our favorite section, I do want to quickly let you know that my team and I are building a wonderful web clipper for Notion that will be able to not only clip highlights very easily, but also clip the entirety of the article. It has a ton of other super powerful features. We're working on a mobile app for easily clipping entire articles on your phone as well. We are calling it Flylighter, and if you go over to flylighter.com, we have a waitlist right now. We're going to be launching our browser extension very soon. It is the most powerful web clipper you have ever seen for Notion, and a ton of extra features are coming down the pipeline. So seriously, get yourself on the waitlist. You are not going to want to miss our launch. Okay, back to our build process. Once you get your web clips thing here, you're going to be able to easily use Flylighter to start clipping things and then tagging them later on. Next thing we want to build is our favorite section. And just like we duplicated our little tab here to kind of cut down on the work we have to do, we can also duplicate entire linked views of databases and then simply make tweaks just like we did before. So I'm going to click this little filter button here just to hide those little menu items there. And then if I hold Option or Alt on a Windows machine, I can actually click this little 6-dot menu here and drag this block to just drop it as a copy right over there. So what we have here is basically a copy of our inbox view, which we don't quite want. So all we have to do to turn this into a favorites view is just tweak our filters. And I think in favorites, we don't really want a web clips tab. I'm just gonna have a single tab. And the reason for that is you're probably not going to have a ton of favorites. So I think having a mixture of web clips and regular notes in that favorites tab is going to be more advantageous than having to switch, especially if you're on mobile, because these tabs often turn into drop-down menus on mobile, which is a little bit slower to work with. Obviously, you can leave these if you want, but I'm going to go ahead and delete that web clips view right there. And then here in favorites, I'm going to change my filters so that where archived is checked is still there. That's going to be on basically every view except for our archive page. But where tag is empty is going to go away, and where URL is empty is also going to go away. And we're going to add one additional filter, which you can probably guess already, and that's going to be where favorite is checked. So now only notes where that favorite checkbox is checked are going to show up in this favorites view. And the other thing I want to do here is I'm going to go ahead and remove my sort criteria. And that is because when I'm building a favorites area in a note-taking system, I don't actually want them to automatically sort themselves. I want to have manual sorting, just like I would have in my favorite section here. If I were to add some more pages to favorites in my Notion sidebar, just like that, I would want to be able to drag them around and order them as I please. So I'm going to go ahead and implement that as a feature in Ultimate Notes, and I would invite you to do the same. Okay, so the next one we're going to move on to is our recents area, and what do you know? We can do basically the exact same little skip that we did before with the inbox. If we just hold Option or Alt and drag that view, we now have a nice little view to play with here in the recents area. And for recents, I think we do want to retain the web clips tab as well as the notes tab, because here you're going to have basically every note in your entire system in this view. And that's because the point of recents is to basically show every note simply sorted by its last edited date in descending order. Basically, you want to see what you've been working on most recently. However, you're not going to have a super long list here because Notion actually has a feature called the load limit. Now, by default, it is 50 pages, but for this dashboard, I think I'm actually going to go ahead and set my load limit to 10 pages instead. So that way, when you load this up, when you've got a ton of content in here, and I think I can actually show you a demo version of Ultimate Notes with more content in it so you can kind of see this, it's only going to show you those first 10, which is really nice and kind of keeps things clean and keeps individual columns from being super duper long. So actually, while I'm thinking about it, I'm going to add that to all these other views as well. And now if I have to duplicate this view again, I'm going to have that load limit set. Okay, so for recents, again, we're going to be making a change to our filters here because we're not building an inbox view. We're building a recents view where we see every note in our workspace sorted by last edited date. And I think we already have that sort there, edited time descending. Yes, we do. I accidentally deleted it, so let's add it one more time. And then we can edit our filters to make this view do what we want. So archived is unchecked. We still want that. Where tag is empty, we want to get rid of that. And where URL is empty, I actually am going to keep that because I want to have that web clips tab. So this basically creates the recents tab, and then over in web clips we can do the exact same thing, add that filter change where we just get rid of tag is empty and URL is not empty stays, and now we have our recents view. Now, one thing I added in Ultimate Notes is an additional view to the recents area called voice notes. And this is just another view where the filter says it has to have a type property choice of voice note. And basically the entire point of this view is it gives you a nice filtered place for all of your voice notes created with my voice to text and AI summary automation. And I created a whole video on my channel about that. I'll link to that in the description down below. If you want to be able to, say, go for long walks or drives, record your voice and get a full transcript and a summary of what you said, you can use that. It is a very, very easy workflow to set up. I did a lot of coding work to make it easy. It is eventually also going to be in Flylighter mobile. And like I said, it's just really nice to have a specific area in your note-taking system to see those voice notes. I find myself going to my own voice notes area of my copy of Ultimate Brain, which is basically the upgraded version of Ultimate Notes. It has a task manager and project manager. I'll talk about it a little bit later, but I find myself going to that area all the time because I am constantly taking voice notes and constantly referring back to them. So I'm going to add that also to my little recents area. And just like before, I'm just going to go ahead and duplicate this tab here. You'll notice this is a pattern that I use all the time. And the reason is it just cuts down on a ton of work that we actually have to do. And while I'm thinking about it, I'm going to change that icon from a globe to a microphone just so it kind of fits the whole voice notes theme a little bit better. And if we wanted to make it even more improved, maybe I would just call this voice. And maybe I would call the web clip tab just web. And let's see if that makes the words short enough to fit all the tabs here in this view. Indeed, it does. So now it keeps one of them from going into a drop-down menu, and I think that's actually quite nice. So I think that's a cool little change, and I'm going to implement that into the actual template version as well. Okay, so to make this a actual voice notes tab here, I'm gonna go to my filters once again, and URL is not empty, we actually do not need, so I'm gonna get that out of there, but we do actually want where type is voice note. So this is why we added that as a default option earlier on in the tutorial. Okay, so our recents section is done. The next section we're gonna build out is our tag section. And this is the first one where we can't just grab one of these existing views and duplicate it over here. And that is because here we're creating a linked database view of our tags database instead of our notes database. So to do that, once again, I'm gonna type /list. I could create a different type of view, maybe a gallery or a board. You're gonna see those later on in the tutorial. But for now, we're gonna go with list one more time. And this time we're gonna select tags as our data source instead of notes. Once again, I'll click new empty view so I don't get that default table view from the source database. And now I have a nice little list style tags database. So once again, we are going to create some filters, some sorts, and we are going to hide that little database title just because I don't think it looks very clean. Let's also get rid of these two untitled pages. We can add some more example pages later on. And let's start this out first by giving this tab here a more descriptive name. So I'm gonna call this A to Z, and this is gonna be a view of our tags database that is alphabetical, as you might imagine. So for some filter criteria, first and foremost, we are going to add our handy dandy archived is unchecked filter. That way we can also archive entire tags if they are no longer relevant to us and we want to send them off to the archive that we're going to build in a little bit. And then we're also going to create our sort criteria here, and it's just going to be simply name ascending, and that gets us a nice little alphabetical view. Maybe I'll create one more tag page here. Let's just call it, I don't know, bugs. We could create another one here, call it, I don't know, marketing. So I'm interested in bugs, marketing, and streaming. That's what I'm interested in these days, guys. And now you can see this is nice and alphabetized. Now, if I go back over to the actual demo of Ultimate Notes, you can see we have a lot more information going on in this tags view, but these properties here are actually Notion formulas. So we're gonna add them a little bit later in the tutorial because they're a bit more of an advanced use case. I'm gonna give you all the code so you can simply copy and paste. If you do wanna learn Notion formulas, we have a whole guide. I will link to that in the description down below. I'm planning a live stream to teach them from scratch as well, but for this tutorial's purpose, I'm just gonna give you the code. Still, I wanna keep those for later on in the video. For now, I'm gonna go back to our build and I'm gonna duplicate this A to Z view and I'm gonna create another view called favorites. And this is going to allow us to actually favorite specific tags that we wanna access more often. Now you can imagine in a note-taking system, after you've used it for a while, you might have a lot of tags, maybe dozens and dozens of tags. And if they're alphabetized, you might not even see the tag you want on initial load if we are setting our load limit to 10 pages like I'm going to do right now. So I wanna create a nice little favorites view that's going to allow you to just sort of check a favorites box on the tags you're accessing most often. Before we do that, and before I forget, I'm gonna go back over to A to Z. I'm gonna set that load limit to 10 as well. That's something you can do too. And then back over in favorites, I'm gonna show you a cool little trick. I actually don't think I want favorites to be a list view. I kind of want favorites to be a gallery view so I can make it look a little bit cooler. So if I go to this view options menu here, I can go to layout and I can choose gallery instead. And that kind of gives me this nice little gallery view. Now, I wanna build this out with a few different options. So first, I'm gonna set my card preview from page content to page cover. And that will allow me to actually set like a nice cover image at the top of each page. And then I wanna set card size to small. I'm gonna wrap all my properties, and then I also want to open pages in side peek instead of center peek. For some reason, Notion still opens pages that are in gallery views and I believe calendar views in center peek, but I like side peek for almost every single database application that I build these days. So by setting it this way, when I open up my bugs tab, it just opens up like that. And I think that's super useful. Now I have this entire notes database where I can run my entire note-taking life, note-taking adventures. And if I want to open up a specific note or a specific tag page, boom, there it is on the right side. And I can easily click away from it and open up something else just as easily. So there's my favorites gallery view. To actually make this a favorites view, I need to add a filter. So one more time, we're gonna go to our filter menu. We are going to add another filter where favorite is checked. And that is gonna be our favorites view. So maybe we go over to A to Z and I think my marketing tag is really, really cool. So I'm gonna favorite that. If we go back over to favorites, now we can see marketing and now I can very easily access it at a glance. Okay, we have one more section on our notes dashboard, and that is the note board. This is going to be a board view of our entire notes database, and it's basically going to give us, if we go over the demo here, a nice little Kanban style view where if we wanted to, we could take things with no tag, basically inbox notes, and we could drag them over to specific tags in our note-taking system. So maybe for some reason, I put my house tour notes in my music folder. I'm allowed to do that. This is America. This is a free country, so maybe I'm going to do that. Actually, I'm not going to though, because that kind of bugs me. But we are going to go ahead and create this noteboard view. So beneath my noteboard heading here, I'm going to type /board, and that's going to give me a board view of my notes database, which I will select as my data source. Once again, new empty view. So I actually get that board here. And then by default, it looks like it is using the type property for our columns. So instead of that, I want to group by right here, our tag property instead. So now I'm grouping by our tags. I'm going to color these columns, and then I don't think I'm going to hide empty groups because I think I want to see all of my tags, even if one of them doesn't have a note in it. That way, if I create a new tag, I could add it to this board view, and then I could drag notes over into it. So that's going to be my group settings. If I go back to my layout here, I can also set some additional settings. So for card preview, I think here I'm going to set it to none just so I can see more notes in a more compressed space. For card size, I'm going to set that to small. For wrapping properties, I'm going to set that to true, or I guess it's already true, so I'm going to leave it like that. And then I'm going to keep opening pages in SidePeek, and I think we are actually good to go for the layout there. I'm going to go ahead and hide that database title as always, and we're going to add our handy dandy archive filter as well. So where archive is unchecked. And I think that is the only filter we need to really add to this board view. One thing I want to do though, is I want to give you the option to actually use the type property for your columns or to use your tag property for your columns as well. So we're going to duplicate this. One thing before I forget, if you have a tag and you're not seeing it here, you can click this little plus button right here, and then you can get a whole list of all of your tags and easily add them just like that. So now I got bugs, I got marketing, I got streaming setup. And if I have cool bugs, which is in my inbox, of course I could go to my little edit button right here and I could add the tag just like that. But an even quicker way to do it is to simply grab cool bugs from the no tag column and over into the bug column it goes. So I'm going to name this view by tag, and then I'm going to go ahead and duplicate it, and I'm going to make a new view called by type. And the only change I really need to make here is in my group settings here in view options, I'm going to change this from tag, and I'm going to go back to type. And now you can see I am actually grouping by those types. So I could have books, lecture, voice notes, recipe, all kinds of different types. And if I wanted to, I could very easily sort of tend to my digital notes garden by dragging the notes between these tags here. I also want to color these columns because I think that looks pretty cool. And then if you wanted to, you could even drag things around just like that. So you can create this nice little custom order. And I think no type is going to be my first one. That way, just like with my tag area here, I can sort of process my notes from no type to specific types if I wanted to. Okay, we are now going to kick things up a notch. We're going to go into what I would call the 102 section of this tutorial, and we're going to create what's called a database template for our tags database. And I want to show you an example one more time just as a reminder to jog your memory of why we're going to do this. So over in the Ultimate Notes demo, if I were to open up this app dev page right here, you can see that what we have is an actual little view of our notes database that only shows us the notes that have this tag. We also have a tag favorites area, so kind of the same thing, but also with the additional criteria of it needing to be a favorite. And we have a web clip section as well. So just like in a traditional note-taking system where we could go into a folder and see all the notes in that folder, we basically get to do that here. So the way we need to do this is by creating what's called a database template inside of our tags database. So here, if you just hover over any view of tags, you've got this little new button and then a blue arrow icon right next to it. So I can click that. And now I have this templates area. And I'm going to create a brand new template. So a template is basically just like a set of settings for a page, like a title, property settings, page content that are going to be applied automatically whenever you create a new page. And you can set templates to be automatically applied as default, or you can set them as basically buttons you can click so you can selectively or conditionally apply them if you want to. So I'm going to call this tag template, and this is going to be sort of like the prototype. It's a template for our tag pages. And I can even open this up as a full page just so I have some more space to work. And while I'm here, I'm going to make that actually a full width page because once again, we are working with multiple columns. So I'm going to do my /2c once again, just like that. And we're going to create a few different sections. So /1 for a heading. I'm going to call this notes. Over here, I'm going to call this tag favorites. And then beneath tag favorites, I'm going to do a little section for web clips. And I like this layout because I think within a tag page, you're normally going to have way more notes than you are going to have favorites or web clips. But of course, you can rearrange things to your heart's content, both on a template basis and on an individual page basis. If you've got a page where you have tons and tons of web clips, maybe you drag things around. Again, Notion is like your box of digital Legos to play with. So you don't have to follow this exact template. The reason we're building it all together is so you can understand how the tools work, and then you can make changes that fit your workflow even better. Okay, so here is where the 102 section of this video comes in, because we have to use a special kind of filter, which is easy to actually apply, but maybe a little bit harder to understand. So we're gonna create a brand new linked database here, just like we did before. I'm gonna do /list, and we're gonna choose our notes database as the source, just like we did before, new empty view. And we're gonna go ahead and create this basically like we did with our inbox and recents and favorites views. So done right here. And I think since we're inside the tag, we don't actually need to show the tag property. We could show the type property if we wanted to. We could show anything else. Maybe I will actually show the type property there. But the most important thing that we need to do here is actually set up what's called a self-referential filter. So I'm gonna show it first, and then I'm gonna explain what it is. So I'm gonna go to this filter area right here. I'm gonna add an advanced filter. You can do this with a simple filter. Again, I just like these. And I'm gonna set a filter where tag contains tag template. Now, usually you wouldn't want a filter that contains the tag template because this is just a template. You're never going to really use it. But Notion has this special feature where once you apply a template to a new page, so say to our bugs tag page or to our marketing tag page, this is actually going to update from tag template to whatever that page is. And that's why it's called a self-referential filter. It basically references the new instance of the page that you have created, and that's the page that contains this view of the database. So this is a super powerful feature when you're creating Notion templates, because what it means is you don't have to go into your new page and manually adjust those filters to reference that page. They update on their own. And I'll show you how that works in a second and why it's so powerful. First and foremost, let's keep building here, and let's add our handy dandy archived is unchecked filter that we add to basically every view here, except for the archive views we're going to create later. And because we have a web clip section as well, we are also going to add our standard usual suspect URL is empty, and that is going to create our notes view. Now, if we go over to our copy of Ultimate Notes, you can see we have a few different views. We have updated, A to Z, and then by type. So let's quickly create those. Let's just go ahead and call this one A to Z. And we're going to go ahead and add a sort criteria where name is ascending. So that's basically going to be alphabetical. And then again, I can just go ahead and duplicate this view and then change the sort criteria. So I'm going to call this one recent or updated. And I'm going to change my sort criteria from name and ascending to edited time and descending. So that's going to get us a nice little last updated date sort criteria there. And then one more view. I'll just go ahead and duplicate one more time. I'm going to call this by type. This one is actually going to sort of separate and group by our types here. So let me see. I'm going to enter down a whole bunch just to get some additional space on this template. I'll delete these a little bit later. I'm going to go ahead and open up the view options menu, go to group, and here I'm actually going to group by our type property. So now you can see we get these nice little toggles for each of our types, and we could sort them differently if we wanted to. We could hide them if empty. But basically, if you had a tag with tons and tons of different notes, you might want to actually start adding types to those notes. For example, if you had a tag for a class that you're attending, maybe you have book notes, you have lecture notes, you have test prep notes. This would allow you to easily separate those and then find them very easily. And one cool thing about this group feature is you can toggle open or closed specific groups. So if you're looking just for your lecture notes, boom, open that up, keep the other ones closed, and you are good to go. We could add sorting criteria here if we wanted to. I'm thinking I'm just going to keep that at edited time and descending as well. Make sure I also did that. I think I accidentally deleted it for some reason from this one. So I'm going to go ahead and add that one more time. And then we can use our favorite little duplication trick to create our favorites and web clips sections. So it's going to hold Option Alt on Windows one more time, drag this from the little 6-dot icon, and I'm going to go ahead and just have one tab for favorites. So I'm going to right click and delete these ones and just work with my A to Z, which I'm going to rename to favorites. Let's go ahead and one more time change our filter criteria. So we're going to get rid of URL as empty. We want to see everything we favorited here, and we do need to keep the rest of these. So we just need to add favorite is checked. Just like that, we have a nice little handy dandy favorite section. And just like before, I'm gonna hold Alt and drag this on down to web clips. And we wanna go ahead and rename this to, I guess, web clips, and adjust our filters so it actually is a web clip section. So in our filters, we will get rid of that favorite is checked filter. And we're gonna go ahead and add a URL is not empty filter. So that creates a basic version of our tag template. We can come in here later to add some formulas and some extra fanciness, but I'm gonna keep it basic for now, delete those blank blocks I added. And what I wanna do next is actually show you what happens when I apply this template to one of my tag pages. So let's pick my marketing page. I'm gonna go ahead and choose tag template just like that. And now you can see notes, tag favorites, web clips, they all come in. I can open this as a full page. And when I go into my filter here, you can see this gets automatically updated to tag contains marketing. So that is what I mean by a self-referential filter. It gets automatically updated and it removes a ton of manual work for you. Okay, let's go back, and I wanna now add this as a default template for all of my tags views. I think that this is just always going to need to be applied. I don't think we have other types of tag templates that we're going to be using. So on any of these views, I can go to that actual little tag template here. I can hit the 3 dot icon, and then I can set it as a default. And when I do, I get this option where I can set it for all views of the tags database or only on this chosen view. So in this case, I'm gonna go for all views. In other cases, you might choose a specific view, and then you might choose a different default template or even no default template for other views. It's all context dependent. And again, Notion just gives you these capabilities and options. The next feature we're gonna add to our Notes dashboard is one of Notion's newer features. And it's gonna be a button right around here that's going to let us create a new note instantly. Before I do that, I'm gonna drag this databases page down here to the bottom. And I think just for aesthetic purposes, I'm also gonna enter down from this noteboard and create a divider with 3 dashes. I just think that looks a little bit better. So we'll keep our databases there for now. And then up here at the top, I'll enter down from Ultimate Notes, and then we can type /button. And this basically allows us to run a set of steps or rules automatically every time the button is clicked. So in our case, we're gonna create a brand new note, and fittingly, I'm gonna call this button new note. Let's give it that nice little pencil emoji right there. And then when the button is clicked, we wanna add a brand new page. So add page to our notes database. So I'm gonna choose notes just like that. I want this note to go to my inbox, so I'm not gonna set any particular properties. However, if you wanted this note to do something different, like say, go to a specific tag or automatically favorite itself, you could edit a property just like that. I'm gonna leave it blank. Again, we wanna go to the inbox here, and then I'm gonna add one more step, and that's gonna be open page. And we wanna actually select the new page added right here, and I'm gonna set that as side peek. Just like that. So now you can see when I click this button, I get a brand new note. Let's call this, I don't know, gardening tips. And I could add whatever I wanted down here, like, I don't know, water the flowers. Isn't that a concept? And that just gives me just an instant way to create a brand new note. Now you don't have to add this. Of course, we could always add new notes to the inbox, but say you had this on the web clips tab by default, or it was the last destination, you're on your phone, you need to create a new note right away. This lets you create that new note without any issues whatsoever. So the next thing we're gonna add here is a very simple quick links bar. So if I enter down once more from Ultimate Notes, I just wanna create a little toggle. It's gonna give me a table of contents block. I've talked about this before in a lot of my builds, but if you add a table of contents block, just like this, so /TOC, this will allow you to instantly jump down to a section that is lower on the page. So if I want to go down to tags, boom, I'm at tags. And on a desktop style layout like this, where we actually see all of our multiple columns, this doesn't matter so much. I can scroll pretty fast with my mouse, but when you're using this note-taking dashboard on your phone, this is something that comes really in handy, especially if you have a lot of notes in your note-taking system and you want to say jump all the way down to noteboard or tags. That is a nice little handy trick. So the next thing we're gonna add to this template is actually another page, and that's gonna be the archive page that I've been talking about throughout this video. So because we have the archive checkbox in both our notes database and our tags database, when we check the checkbox for any note or any tag that we wanna archive, we actually wanna send it to that archive page. So first and foremost, I'm going to go ahead and create a page, and I'm gonna go ahead and create it in the quick links area up here. That way, if we create the page just like this and call it archive, and then we open up our Ultimate Notes inside of our sidebar, we'll see archive there. And I think while I'm doing this, I'm also going to grab my databases page and also drag it to the top, and I'll just put it underneath archive as well. So I'm just doing that because it gives us quick access to the pages in this toggle, and also it puts the pages at the top of our list of subpages and views inside this Ultimate Notes page in the sidebar. So I'm gonna close that back up. We'll go into our archive page. I'm gonna give that a some sort of archivey icon here. Maybe there's like a trash one. That works perfectly well, even though we're not truly trashing things or deleting things. I think it's a good icon. I'll make that full width, go through my little customized page settings here to turn backlinks off and such. And then this is going to be a really simple page. All we're going to do is create two different sections. The first one being archived notes and the second one being archived tags. And then underneath each of these sections, we're going to do basically what we've been doing all along, except for this time, I'm actually going to go with a table view. And picking my notes database here, I'm going to create a brand new empty view. I'm going to call this archived. And the most important thing we need to do here is set a filter that is opposite of all of our other views. This is going to show any note where the archived property is in fact checked. So right now there's going to be nothing there, but if we start archiving notes, they're going to disappear from all the other views we have where we have the filter saying archive is unchecked, and they're going to go here. So this becomes our safe storage place for anything that we don't want to see in any other part of the template. I'm also going to sort by our edited time in descending order, and then I'm going to hide that database title just like that. Now, as for all these properties here, we probably don't need to see all of them. So here's a cool trick for hiding them. Instead of right-clicking and hiding every single one of them, you can actually go to the three-dot menu here, open up View Options, go to Properties, and there's a Hide All button. And then once you've hidden every property other than name, you can go and select the ones that you want to show. So I'm actually going to go ahead and enable a few of them here. And the reason that I'm going to do that is I actually want to show you one of the other newer features that Notion has launched fairly recently. So I think this is a good amount here. We have enough that we can actually scroll sideways. And I'm going to grab this archived property and actually move that to the very left side. And let's just go ahead and create a test archive note just so you can see how this is going to look. So a feature that I have not covered yet on this channel is column freezing in table views. So if I open up the options for this property, I can actually freeze up to this column. And now you'll notice if I hold shift and I scroll sideways to see my other properties, that archived property actually sticks to the left side. And if I wanted to, I could freeze multiple properties as well. So let's say we wanted to see archived and name, and let's say we wanted to actually squeeze this down to just a checkbox instead of showing the name there. Now, we've got both of those properties frozen, and we can scroll through all the rest. So you can add that or disable it as you like, but I did want to show it to you. And to finish up this little archive page, let's do the exact same thing for the archived tags section. So once again, I'm going to do a table view, and note that we don't want to use table. That's a simple table. It's not a database view. We want table view specifically. This time I want to pick tags. I'll do a new empty view just like I did before. And just like before, we can go in here, we can show or hide the properties that we care about. Here, I'm just going to show archived. I'll show, let's say, latest note count. I think that's probably pretty good. Let's go ahead and squeeze that down, throw it over here. And just for fun, we can do the exact same freeze trick. And that is our archive page totally built. So at this point in the video, we're now going to start adding a little bit of, sprinkles, icing, a little bit of extra finesse to our note-taking system. We have the bones here. You could actually stop here if you wanted to, but if we go over to the Ultimate Notes demo, you will notice that especially in the tags area, we have a few additional features here. We have an actual count for how many notes are in our tag or each tag. We have a link to a note in the tag, and you can see if I hover over it, if the little green arrow or green circle get out of the way, you can see it says latest note. So this will actually give us a link to the most recently updated note within that tag. And as you can see, you can literally just click it and get to it just like that, which is pretty sweet. We also have a different view of our tags database, which actually sorts by recent, but it's not recently created tags. This is actually sorting by the notes inside the tags and how recently they were updated. So basically the activity inside your tags determines the sort order for this view. And then over here, we actually have this little 10 days button here. And this is showing us how long ago this was edited, which I find to be pretty useful inside of our recents dashboard. And last but not least, if I open up this note right here, we have a property called duration. And if I were to put a number of seconds in this duration seconds property, so let's just say 300, we get 5 minutes formatted just like you would normally format timestamps and durations. So all of these properties are formulas that are adding extra functionality to our template. I'm going to speed things up in this part of the template, and I'm just going to literally copy and paste them into the version we're building. And I'm going to provide you with a Notion page in the description down below with those formulas so you can copy and paste them yourself. If you want to learn Notion formulas, a couple of different resources that I will point out for you. Number one, if you go over to thomasjfrank.com, which I will go to right now, if you go to the Learn Notion tab in the top navigation, we have this Notion formulas link right here. And this is truly comprehensive technical documentation on Notion formulas. So not only do we have little tutorial articles that will show you how to get started with formulas, but we also have a dedicated article for every single function. So if you want to know what the empty function does or what data types it supports, we have full documentation on that. For more specific formulas like parse date, we have documentation for that. And we also have some more advanced articles, like if you want to really get into the weeds and start doing regular expressions in Notion formulas. This article took me hours and hours to write, but it is a true technical reference for Notion formulas. The other thing I'll mention is literally today, it's probably not going to be today as I publish this video, but today as I'm filming, I'm doing a live stream going over Notion formulas for beginners, and you will find the archived version of that live stream in the live tab on the Thomas Frank Explains channel. So check that out if you want to learn formulas from scratch. I've got more content planned, but that's what will definitely be out by the time this video is out. So going back over here, again, I'm just going to be copying and pasting, giving you a brief explanation of what each one does as I do it. And I'm going to go ahead and start, I think, with the formulas in the notes database. So to do this, I'm just going to open up any old note. That's going to give me access to all the properties. And more importantly, it's going to give me access to this add a property button right here, which will allow me to add more properties. So we can go over to any old note in our demo right here, and we can see what additional properties we have. We have one called edited, one called base URL, which I totally forgot to mention, but it's actually pretty nice and also pretty confusing looking. So we'll get to that in a bit. We have one called duration seconds, one called duration, and then AI cost. So these three are all basically helper formulas and helper properties for my AI voice notes workflow. Again, we'll have that linked in the description down below. If you want to take notes with your voice on your phone and get full transcripts and summaries, you can use that entire workflow we've built. This will also eventually be built into Flylighter, and these properties basically just show you how long the file was and then how long it cost in terms of OpenAI credits, or I guess OpenAI money to actually do the transcription. I think usually it's around 40 cents per hour of uploaded audio, which is pretty darn cheap, and it's nice to see the cost there. So we're just gonna go ahead and create those. And actually, I think I wanna keep that open just as a reference. So we'll come back over to this note right here. And the first one I wanna create is called edited. So I'm gonna make a new property. I'm going to find the formula property there, call this edited, and then I think I'll give it a nice little icon here. This is another one of Notion's more recent features. You can give properties custom icons. It used to be that they had a property specific icon and it was always that, but now you can actually choose what you want. So my edited property is automatically sorted up here. I'm going to drag it down here, and I'm also going to set it to always hide in terms of property visibility because I only want to see it here in the recents area, and I'm going to add it real quick. So we can go over here and we can grab this formula just as it is, and we might have to make one little tweak to it because I do believe, yep, I changed the default last edited time property name to edited time. So when we paste this formula in here, it's going to be like, hey, last edited time, what's that? I don't see that. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that and then find my edited time property. Just like that, we have 0 days. So boom. 0 days is the amount of time that has passed since I've edited this note. If I go back to a different note, because I've been actually filming this video over a couple of days, look at that, 2 days. So what we can actually do now is come over to our recents area and go to our view options. And there's a small little bug saying I'm the content editor. This is going to be out of Notion by the time this video goes out, so don't worry about that. But if I go to properties here, I can actually find my edited property, set that to visible. And then within voice, I guess I'll keep that visible as well. And look at that, that gives me 2 days. It gives me the link to the tag. And then I can go here and I can do the same thing for my other views as well. Okay, now I have my edited badges. Our next formula we're going to add is one called base URL. And this one is actually really cool, so I'm kind of mad at myself for forgetting to talk about it. But we're gonna grab this right here and I'll show you just what it does. It adds a really nice feature to our tag pages. So if I go into here, and I actually wanna give this URL basically just to give it a bit of example power here. So let me find streaming tips for OBS, one really quick. Okay, so here's an article on streaming tips for OBS. I'm just gonna copy that. I'm gonna paste it in my URL field here, and you're gonna see why I did that in just a second. So let's add one more property. Once again, I'm gonna find formula. I'm gonna call it base URL for its name. And then I think for its icon, there is a chain icon or a chain link icon. So we'll use that. And then I'll go ahead and paste our formula in there. And luckily, URL is already a property that exists. So it pastes in just fine. And here you can see the base URL is restream.io. If it were thomasjfrank.com/blah, blah, blah, then the base URL would be thomasjfrank.com. And the reason this is useful is that we can come into our tag template and we can actually create a brand new view for our web clips that will actually group our web clips by that base URL. So say you had clipped a lot of different articles from thomasjfrank.com, maybe from that formula reference, you'd be able to actually come into a tag and you'd be able to group all of your web clips by that base URL, which I find personally really useful sometimes. So the way that we can do that is we'll go over to the web clips here inside of our tag template. I'm going to duplicate this view. Again, I'm trying to reduce as much duplicated effort as possible. And I'm going to call this by base URL for the view name. I'll go ahead and give it that nice little chain link icon as well. And then if we come into our, actually back in the view options, if we come into our group settings right here, we can find our base URL property and we can group by that. Now, no base URL doesn't make sense to show because anything here has to have a URL. So we're gonna go ahead and hide that one. And then if you wanted to, you could sort manually or reverse alphabetical. I'm just gonna keep it alphabetical by default. And now here's a cool little trick actually. If you come into a tag page that already has a template applied, you can actually drag and select everything, delete it, and then reapply the tag template to get the latest version of your template. Now, if you had content that you had literally written onto the page, you probably wouldn't want to do this, or you'd want to at least save that content somehow, copy and paste it back. But if we just have linked views of databases, then there's not anything on this page that's really that page's own content. All this page is really showing is a filtered and sorted view of our notes database, which lives elsewhere. So it's safe to delete these linked views and respawn them from the template. Hopefully that makes sense. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions on it and I can clarify it in a further video or article or something like that. But if we go ahead and let's actually give that streaming article a tag of marketing really quickly, just so we can actually show you how it works. So I'm going to, it actually already has streaming as its tag. So let's just apply the tag template for the streaming page as well. And then if we open this as a full width page, you can see streaming setup is right there. But if we go to buy base URL, now it's inside this restream.io group, and I can easily close that and then more clearly see other ones if I have a lot of web clips in this tag. All right, moving right along, we're gonna head back to the Ultimate Notes dashboard here, open up yet another random note from our inbox, and now we wanna make that duration, seconds, duration, and AI cost group of properties. So these two are gonna be numbers. I'm just gonna go ahead and create them like so. We'll find our number property type. I'll call this duration seconds, and I'll keep that as a number, and then I'm gonna add another formula property called duration. And this one, I'm going to give a nice little clock icon. So the reason I'm not bothering to give an icon to duration seconds is this property is always going to be hidden. In fact, I'm going to set the property visibility to always hide. The reason for that is in my AI voice notes workflow, we have a piece of the automation that's just going to automatically fetch the duration of an audio file, put it in this duration seconds property as a number of seconds. And then what we actually want to see is our duration property, which will show us the duration in hours, minutes, and seconds. So this will always be automatically filled. You'll never have to interact with it. It's just feeding data to this formula here. And speaking of that formula, I'm going to go over here and I'm actually going to grab that formula. This is one of the formulas that I'm actually going over in my live stream later today. Again, you should be able to see the archived version in the live tab. So if you want to understand the math and the logic behind this, check out that live stream archive. For now, once more, we're just going to paste it in there just like that. And now if we add a random number of seconds here, let's do, 7,521, we can see it's a 2 hour, 5 minute, and 20-second file. I think that's pretty useful. And then to wrap this up here for this grouping, I'm going to create another number property called AI cost. We will find a money related icon real quick for that. The little coins here I think work. And again, this is something that the automation automatically deals with, so you don't have to actually manually edit it yourself. I'm actually going to set the number format here from number to US dollar. You could choose your currency if you're in a different country, and that will actually format it as a number of dollars and cents. So we could do like 125 and boom, there it is, 125. So I think we're now done with formulas on the notes database. Let's recheck one more time. Yes, we are. So now we can move on to the formulas in our tags database. So opening this up, we have latest note date, and then note count. So I'm just going to go ahead and go in descending order, open up code snippets, copy all of this stuff, and we will go into our ultimate notes, find a tag page, and add a property of formula type called latest note. Let's give that a little, how about a crayon icon this time? We can paste that formula in there, and we do seem to be getting an error here, and I think it's because we have last edited time here once again referenced. So if we delete that and swap it out for edited time, that should fix everything. Yes, it does. And now we can see within the bugs tag, which should probably have the tag template, cool bugs is our latest note. It's also our only note, but if we had another note in there, it would be pulling from the last edited date of those notes. Okay, we also have latest note date. This is a property we're just gonna use for sorting purposes. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab that one more time. I do think we're gonna have to fix it because of last edited time. So one more time, formula, we'll call that latest note date. And this is another formula we're never going to see, so I don't care about an icon here. I'm just gonna paste that in there, fix our little last edited time reference to edited time, hit done, set the property visibility to always hide. And another quick tip here, if you didn't know, you can come up to the three-dot menu on any page, and if you're in a database, you'll see customize page, and you can actually set the property visibility settings for all the properties in the database. And of course, that's going to apply on every single page in that database. So I think latest notes, I do want to always show, or maybe I'll actually hide when empty. Latest note date, I'm always going to hide, and then notes, I'm always going to hide as well. And the reason for that is we are already going to see the notes for this tag in these views down here. So now things are a lot cleaner up here. In fact, I might also hide archive as well, just because we're probably not going to be archiving tags very often. And now we just only have a couple of properties up here. This is way more manageable, and we can more quickly see our actual content here. Okay, so we have latest note, we have latest note date, and then we're going to go ahead and add note count as well. And we can finish up by editing our views in the tags area using these new formulas. So we'll create this new property, formula, note count, and maybe there's like a number icon here. Just like that, looks good. I'll go ahead and paste this in here. Everything's coming in. There's no red squiggly lines, so we're good to go there. And you can see we have one note in our bugs tag. So now our formulas are done. I think note count is another formula we could probably hide on these tag pages. And to finish this up, we can come into our tags view here, and we can start adding some of these useful new formulas to our property visibility settings. So once again, into our view options menu, we're going to go to properties, and then we can find our latest note and note count properties. And if we X out, we now have basically something that looks like the actual Ultimate Notes demo like that. We can see how many notes are in each of our tag pages, and then we can actually see and link to our latest note from that tag page listing. And while I'm here, I'm also going to go to the page customization settings for my notes database as well, and we'll set a few of these to always hide too, because I don't want to see edited time, created time. I probably don't want to see actually for tag, this is a good little chance to show something new. We could always hide it, and we could hide as empty. These are the default visibility options we've always had, but there's two newer ones that I don't think I've showed off in my video content yet. There's as page section. So that will actually create a separate section of the page where you can add tags. I don't personally like that, but that is something you can do. Going back to customize page, the one that I actually want to pick here, if I can find my tag property, there it is minimal. So that doesn't necessarily fully hide it, but it makes it this really nice minimal, just one tag button here. And there you could actually add different tags. Another cool thing that I'm not sure if I've showed is when you go into a relation menu like this, there's this little three-dot menu, and you can actually show properties from that linked database. So let's go ahead and show maybe the note count. Just like that. And if you want to show other ones like latest note, you could also do that. I'm going to go ahead and hide that one. But this is a nice little way that you can sort of visually parse your relations in a different related database. And I think it's kind of the best thing we have right now while we still can't filter or sort within this menu. It at least gives you a way to, again, visually parse the differences between these pages. And if they had different tags, that could be pretty useful indeed. Okay, so I'm also gonna go and hide this base URL property. I don't think we ever need to see that. This is looking a lot cleaner. It's giving me a lot more screen real estate for my actual note content. And then to finish this build up, one other thing I want to do is create a recent view here. And again, this is showing the tags based on the most recent update to a note within them. And that's why we created that latest note date formula property. So to do that, we're just going to go ahead and duplicate our A to Z view. I'm going to call it recent and give it a clock icon like it should have. And then we can go up to the sort criteria and simply change our name in ascending order to latest note date in descending order. And now we basically get the tag at the top, not that has had an actual edit to itself, but that has the note that has been most recently edited amongst the notes that actually have tags. So I think that actually finishes up our build. The Ultimate Notes template itself has a few other advanced features, like there's an actual page for these views here, and those are nice for mobile use. I'm not adding that into this tutorial because that would add probably like 10 extra minutes of really tedious duplication. So I'll just tell you at a glance, if you want to create these pages, you can simply create them as pages. I put them inside the quick links bar right here, and then you can literally just click the 6-dot icon menu here, copy that view, and then create a brand new page, paste it in there just like that. So that is how you would build those separate pages. But other than those, we have a fully fledged note-taking system here. Again, we have inbox, we have favorites, we have recents, we have tags, we have our note board, and this gives you a truly, one-stop shop, a single page where you can basically manage all of the notes that come to your life, from notes that you're actually taking yourself to web clips that you're grabbing, perhaps with Flylighter, our browser extension. And then if you want to get into a note, this is why I love SidePeek so much. You just click it, you can work on it to your heart's content. And one of my favorite features here, so I'll call it out again, is this little latest note formula property that lets us get into that latest note directly from a tag page. I think that is super duper cool. So at this point, you probably have a fully fledged note-taking system that you've built yourself if you've been following along with this video. If you're watching this for entertainment purposes, I will once again let you know that Ultimate Notes is a free Notion template, and you can download it and add it to your Notion workspace completely free. You will find the link in the description down below. And if you want to go a little bit further than notes, you want to do what I do and actually turn Notion into a full-fledged productivity system with task management and project management as well, then Ultimate Brain is definitely the template that you're going to want to look into. You can find it over at thomasjfrank.com/brain, and Ultimate Brain truly gives you a full-fledged productivity system inside of Notion. We have task management with recurring tasks and subtasks and all kinds of advanced features there. We have this full note-taking system along with some more advanced features like a recipe tracker. My wife and I use that for all of our recipes that we use to cook at night. We have a book notes tracker. We have a daily journal feature. So there's a lot of extra added value on top of the note-taking system. And then personally, my favorite feature is our project management system. Allows you to see both your tasks and your notes for each project inside of a single page. And I find that super useful when I'm in planning mode. I want to actually take notes on my projects, but I also want to do task management and use the context from those notes to inform the kind of tasks that I'm creating. So again, if you want to go beyond notes, you want to turn Notion into a full productivity system, you can get Ultimate Brain over at thomasjfrank.com/brain. And the great thing about Ultimate Brain and our premium templates in general is that we actually have active support. So in addition to our stellar tutorials and our videos, we also have a forum where if you get stuck, if you have a question, if you're curious about how you might want to add something to your template, you can post a question and our Notion certified support staff will get you an answer. Once again, thomasjfrank.com/brain is where you can go to get Ultimate Brain, and you can even use the code LET'SGO2023 at checkout to get $50 off of any edition, the base edition or the bundle edition that also comes with Creator's Companion, which is literally the template that my team and I use to run all of my content creation efforts, from this channel to the Thomas Frank channel to Twitter and our blogs. Literally everything is run through Creator's Companion. That is a template that we have spent over 5 years perfecting and honing, and you can get it as part of our bundle with Ultimate Brain. So click right there on screen if you want to check out that template. Otherwise, I've got a couple of other videos here and here that you might find interesting if you are trying to improve your Notion skills even further. Thanks for watching. Ask me questions on Twitter at TomFrankly if you have them, and I'll see you in the next one.